Hi guys. Early this morning I put up a video just focusing on the Iran nuclear deal, and I said that basically we need to keep our eyes open for Trump decertifying the nuclear deal and labeling Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps as terrorists, as he said he would, and Iran promised, as I showed you yesterday, they promised a crushing response, saying basically that Americans would have to move their regional bases outside of the 2,000-kilometer range of Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps missiles. So, as Donald Trump says, Donald Trump does, and today he announced the sanctions on the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and decertified the nuclear Iran deal, which means that it goes to Congress now, and they have 60 days to reimpose sanctions on Iran, which Iran already said that if that happens, they'll withdraw from the nuclear deal, and they would be legally okay to do so. The USA would actually be the ones in violation of the nuclear Iran agreement, or Iran nuclear agreement, and that would mean that Iran has the opportunity to either remain in the agreement with the remaining countries, which are Britain, France, Germany, China, Russia, and the UN, or they can withdraw from it completely, which will basically put the situation back to how it was before the deal was even started, with Iran free to pursue their nuclear ambitions, which won't go down well with Israel. As I mentioned yesterday, Israel would most likely team up with America to launch a preemptive strike on Iran to stop them from acquiring nuclear missiles. So let's have a little listen to what the Trump had to say. Sorry, 1 second, please. Okay.
Our policy is based on a clear-eyed assessment of the Iranian dictatorship, its sponsorship of terrorism, and its continuing aggression in the Middle East and all around the world. Iran is under the control of a fanatical regime that seized power in 1979 and forced a proud people to submit to its extremist rule. This radical regime has raided the wealth of one of the world's oldest and most vibrant nations and spread death, destruction, and chaos all around the globe.
So that was it. He basically labeled them terrorists, and now the plan is to basically watch for Iran's response, which actually I believe they already responded. So let's have a quick look. There we go. So almost immediately after Trump's speech, the Iranian President Hassan Rouhani blasted the Trump administration for unilaterally against the 2015 nuclear deal, denouncing new US policy but stopping short of announcing a withdrawal from the pact. He says, "We will continue to stick to the deal and to cooperate with the International Atomic Energy Agency within the framework of international law," he said, referring to the watchdog tasked with monitoring Iran's nuclear program. But if the deal's other signatories refuse to abide by their commitments, Iran will not hesitate to respond. So it appears that Iran is saying it will stay in a deal with the other countries, but that is, at the moment, under question because of the 60-day waiting period for Congress to impose new sanctions. And if Congress do impose new sanctions, then more than likely, even with the other countries still in the deal, Iran would probably withdraw, because America is basically is the controller of the world through the currency, the dollar. Everything is pretty much sold in a dollar, and you can't really make progress in your country unless you're trading in dollars. So to be barred from that, which would be one of the conditions of the sanctions, would put Iran in economic collapse, which I don't think Iran would stand for. Therefore, they would go ahead and resume their nuclear ambitions. So let's have a little bit more of a read. So these comments come just hours after Trump announced his intention to decertify the deal. In a report to Congress, the agreement, which was negotiated under the Obama administration, curbed Iran's nuclear activities in exchange for major sanctions relief. So basically, if Congress do decide to reimpose sanctions, it will basically just reverse the deal that was done in 2015. He also says the speech tonight showed that the nuclear deal is much stronger than what this gentleman thought during the presidential campaign. He said, referring to Trump. It's nice that he called him a gentleman. You know, better than what Kim Jong-un called him. So Rouhani, a moderate leader who has pushed for Iran to open up to the world, was re-elected for a second term in May. This is an international multilateral deal, Rouhani said of the agreement, also known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or JCPOA. It is not a document between Iran and the United States that he can treat the way he likes. In his policy Friday, Trump referred to Iran as a dictatorship with a long campaign of bloodshed. The regime remains the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism, he said, adding that he would order the Treasury Department to designate Iran's Revolutionary Corps as supporter of terrorism. The Revolutionary Guard is an official branch of Iran's armed forces, although it commands proxy forces in the region and wields vast political and economic influence. Trump's move, using an existing executive order on terrorism financing, falls short of the foreign terrorist organization designation used by the State Department, which carries much harsher sanctions. So I'm going to stop reading there. If you'd like to read it, it's a report from the Washington Post. You'll be able to find it, or just type in Iran response to Trump in Google and click on the first link as I did, or rather on the first news link, as you'll see there. So let's have a look at the options. So, as I said yesterday, certifying a deal was never an avenue that Trump was going to take, so that was immediately off the table. We've gone down the decertify route, and we're now in Congress, where they have 60 days to either reimpose sanctions against Iran, which will cause the deal to collapse, or they can choose to stay in the deal with the other 5 countries, excluding the USA and including the UN. More than likely, if sanctions are imposed, at the moment Iran is saying it will stay in the deal, but if sanctions are imposed, then I'm guessing that they'll probably leave the deal, even if these other countries stay involved. Congress has another option to basically do nothing, which is not actually do nothing. It just means that they're unable to come up with the votes to impose sanctions, which means it goes back to Donald Trump. Trump has already said if Congress fail to provide him with options to amend the negotiation, which basically means put harsher sanctions in place, then he will basically end the deal. So you've got a couple of ways the deal could end. Either sanctions are imposed on Iran and the deal ends. Sanctions are not imposed on Iran, the decision goes back to Trump and the deal ends. Or they try and amend the agreement, which Iran has already said that they won't do. And it's difficult because it's not just between America and Iran. It's America, Iran, Britain, France, Germany, France, and Russia, and the UN. Oh, sorry, and China as well. So amending a deal that includes that many countries and that many negotiators was difficult in the first place. And I don't think that under Donald Trump they're going to be able to renegotiate a better deal for Donald Trump, basically, or for America. If they don't think the deal's good enough, I don't think Iran is going to renegotiate. And the other countries have also said that's probably unlikely to happen. So we're on the path to the Iran deal collapsing, basically. And as I said, once that deal does collapse, or if the deal is looking like it's going to collapse, but I don't think it's something that can just happen in one go. But if Iran does decide to withdraw from the agreement, either due to sanctions being imposed, or Donald Trump decides to end the agreement himself, then we're back to the beginning where Israel will probably look to either launch a tactical strike using conventional weapons or nuke Iran to completely eradicate their nuclear plan, as well as 1.6 to 5.6 million people along with that. So that's what we're up to at the moment. With the Revolutionary Guard part, as soon as the Treasury Department probably issues their recommendations on the sanctions that they can impose, then we'll probably have an answer from Iran in terms of what they plan to do in response to that. So we'll keep our eyes open for that as well. So this is just an update from this morning's video, and I'll post updates as necessary.